Good evening. I'm John Batchelor. This is the John Batchelor Show. It is a very busy news cycle here within hours of the July 4th holiday, celebrating the United States of America, the birth of America, and we go immediately to the story of the troubles of the birth of a new Egypt. Since the Arab Spring, these last 2 years, dating January of 2011, the Ummah, the Islamic community, has watched very carefully the governance in Egypt. It is the most important state. And there is a proverb that says that it is the only nation in the Ummah, all the rest are tribes. So therefore, the turmoil in Egypt these last years and in the last 24 to 48 hours is at the center of the success or failure of the Arab Spring. I go immediately to this because this has implications in all directions for the Middle East, not just for the Europeans, but also for comity throughout the Mediterranean basin, and especially always watching the 1979 peace treaty that began the rebuilding of this region, the peace treaty between Egypt and Israel. Right now, Mohamed Morsi, the elected president of Egypt, has gone on television to say that he will not follow the ultimatum issued by the military, the state within a state, which expires this ultimatum sometime in the afternoon of July 3rd. There are details here, but before I go into them, I welcome Sam Tadros. Sam Tadros is a research fellow at the Hudson Institute. He is also the author of the forthcoming book from the Hoover Institution, Motherland Lost, the Egyptian and Coptic Quest for Modernity, which is coming out soon enough, but we're going to throw Sam right into the action. Sam, a very good evening to you. Thank you for joining. The players, the elected president, and I'm partial to elected presidents, I like it, Mohamed Morsi, but the military is his adversary, apparently. So are the millions of people who have been in the streets of Egypt protesting Mr. Morsi in these last days, and so are the Muslim Brothers. These are all different points of view. So, have I listed all the players here? Are there other major players to talk about before we plunge into the crisis itself? Good evening to you, Sam.
Good evening, John, and thanks for having me on the show. There are, in reality, two very important players only in this game. It's the military and the Muslim Brotherhood. Everyone else is a side player who's watching. In the side players, there are those protesters in the streets that don't have a collective representation. There are the more radical Islamists, the Salafis, who are watching on the sidelines and being split onto whether they would stand with Morsi or with the army. But in reality, it's only about the two players, about the Muslim Brotherhood and Egypt's military.
Sam, you are Egyptian, and Motherland Lost points to your anxiousness about Egypt. Mohamed Morsi is the elected president. That sounds substantial from the point of view of New York City or from the United States of America. Does that represent a substantial fact in Egypt right now? Is that office respected because he's elected?
He is elected, and he's the first elected president of Egypt. And he has used this fact and stressed this point numerous times during his speech. He used the word legitimacy more than 40 times in his couple of minute speech that he just gave today. So he's stressing this fact a lot, that I am the legitimate elected president of Egypt. And that's that we cannot go back on this. We cannot go back to dictatorship. We cannot go back to institutions within the state, i.e. the military, making up their decisions on how Egypt should be governed. We have a process. We have an election. Yes, I have made mistakes. He has repeated that comment, not identifying any of them, but he's repeated, I have made mistakes, but the solution is not to give up on the democratic process. The solution, I am willing to extend a hand to the protesters. Of course, his hand comes a little bit too late, where their trust in him does not exist any longer.
Once upon a time, there was unhappiness with the governance in Egypt, and a man named Nasser participated in a military coup that lasted some 50 or 60 years. And here we are again with the military on the eve of enforcing or imposing its will on the elected president. Is that where we're going with this, with the kind of Nasser nationalism that is the alternative to Mohammed Morsi?
There are similarities and differences. Nasser was 30 years old when he did his coup. He's a young officer. He's looking for change. He had time on his side on how to change and transform Egypt. Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, the current Minister of Defense who's leading this action against Morsi, is a guy in his very late 50s. He's not the revolutionary type as Nasser was. Yes, he has extreme ambitions, and this has become very clear in the past year where he served as Minister of Defense. Yes, he was probably waiting for this moment and envisions himself as a savior of the nation, but by virtue of being 60 years old, he doesn't have the same dynamics that Nasser would have had at his time.
The concern about Egypt now is not just who is going to speak tomorrow, the military or Morsi as in control of the governance, but it's the 80 million people of Egypt. Let's just speak to the nation. The economy is collapsed. It's not collapsing, it's collapsed. Certainly the tourist dollar fled some time ago, but now we're seeing a breakdown in security in the streets and law and order. There are frequent stories of people being accosted or brutalized on the streets. There was the murder of an American student within these last days in Alexandria who was stabbed. We don't have all the circumstances, but it certainly suggests that foreigners or people who are identified as from outside are at risk. So right now, the concern, what is driving the protest? Is it the lack of security? Is it the economy? Or is it Mohammed Morsi? What is the largest protest?
There's a combination there. There's a city-driven protest going on, which is mostly a middle-class, upper-middle-class community, which is fed up by the Muslim Brotherhood. They see that the Muslim Brotherhood has failed in their promises in providing any better economic management of the country, and they never even liked the Muslim Brotherhood in the first place. They were skeptical about the whole Islamic thing. So that segment of society is certainly a major component of what is happening in a place like Cairo. On the other hand, you get what is happening on the Delta, the northern governorates outside of Cairo, where the protest there is much more driven by what is termed the remnants of the Mubarak regime, meaning the traditional families that have always been in Egypt, always participating in its rule on the bureaucratic level, and that feel alienated by the Muslim Brotherhood's lack of inclusiveness and feel that if the Brotherhood is allowed to control the country, they have no future in Egypt any longer.
Your book not only is about Egypt, but it's about the Coptic Christians, 10% of the population. Are they at risk now with this confrontation, with this collapse? Are they most at risk?
They certainly are. The Copts are, of course, cheering for the military with their loudest voices. They understand that the military might not be secular or might not be personally disposed towards Copts, but at least it's not an Islamist military. At least it is not that entity that hates them and is denouncing them in all kinds of forms. At the same time, we're seeing a dramatic increase in the claims by Islamists that this whole protest is Coptic-driven. Accusations against Copts, raising the rhetoric against those treacherous Copts that are betraying Egypt, working with whatever imagined foreign elements. As a result, Copts have especially become a target in Islamist demonstrations, and we've seen a number of incidents where Islamist demonstrators or supporters of President Morsi would attack people that they perceive to be Copts or a church or something like that in the process of their demonstrations in support of the president.
Sam Tadros of the Hudson Institute. Final question, Sam. I won't ask you what's going to happen. We'll have that in a number of hours. But right now, the people of Cairo, are they at home behind closed doors? Are they in fear of what can happen tomorrow? Or are they saying this has to go forward and they're going to go back out on the streets?
It's 3:00 in the morning in Cairo, so I imagine that most people are definitely in their homes, although I'm not sure anyone would be getting any sleep tonight. I think we've been witnessing a poker game for some time now, and we're seeing the final moment where the players are going to put their cards on the table and we'll know who won. President Morsi today cornered the military with his speech. He has put them in a situation whereby the generals realize that if they do not remove Morsi tomorrow, they themselves will lose their lives and their positions. So now it's a zero-sum game. Either the tanks start falling in Cairo or President Morsi has won. There's no other choice there to happen.
Sam Tadros of the Hudson Institute, a research fellow. His new book, forthcoming, Motherland Lost, The Egyptian and Coptic Quest for Modernity. In Egypt, it is the eve of destruction. I'm John Batchelor. This is The John Batchelor Show.